Hello and welcome to the Eating Disorder Therapist podcast. I'm Harriet Frew, eating disorder therapist, here to support you in overcoming disordered eating and finding peace with food. So today I want to talk about what is the secret ingredient for change, what really supports people to make changes in therapy, and what is it that keeps people stuck. Now obviously this is multifaceted, very nuanced question that has multiple layers, but I'm just going to talk about 5 things that I think have a significant impact on whether someone is able to make changes. Okay, so let's dive in. So as a therapist, I'm often reflecting on the work I'm doing with my clients, forever inspired by their courageous changes, wondering when people get stuck, and consistently surprised and encouraged by the twists and turns of the therapeutic journey. I truly cannot predict a client's path from the initial meeting. And sometimes a client arrives so ready for change and desperate for momentum, I'm quietly encouraging, but this person has already launched a rocket and is firing up in the sky, leaps and bounds ahead. More often though, a client is desperately stuck and feels hugely anxious to let go of the food and rules and body focus. Now they're wanting my support and help, but they're not ready yet to release themselves from the life raft and to venture into the unknown and choppy waters. Now, I think it's so vital to hold deep compassion for any client in this situation, because as humans, we cling to the familiar and known out of an evolutionary need to survive. Even when coping is dysfunctional and familiar habits take us repeatedly to the known dead ends, the familiarity is compelling. So if someone has experienced any type of trauma, big T meaning the more obvious traumas such as abuse or neglect, or the equally damaging and often pervasive small t traumas such as ongoing criticism or bullying, then an eating disorder may be the only safe and known component in the life system. So naturally, ambivalence around change can then be immense. Okay, so let's look at 5 factors that can influence your ability to make changes in therapy. Number 1, your motivation for change. So an eating disorder is a coping strategy for underlying pain. Therefore, there is often deep indecision around change. One day you want rid of it, whilst another day you cling tightly, and your motivation will shift continuously in the healing process. And sometimes you might feel really spurred into action. At other times you'll feel deeply contemplative and unsure, weighing up the pros and cons of change, whilst getting tangled up in overthinking knots and feeling stuck. And relapses, blips, lapses, whatever you want to call them, can be an inevitable part of the journey. So the road is certainly not a smooth one, and bumps can present at every twist and turn. So motivation for change rests on 3 main variables. Number 1, you need to feel personally ready for change and doing this for you. That means not for your mother, your partner, your friend. You have decided to embark on the journey, albeit with trepidation and white-knuckling fears. Number 2, you need to feel willing to act. This means that you're prepared to get on the horse and ride, even if at a slow walking pace and falling off often. You can't be stuck in the stable, observing and contemplating life. Change requires movement. And the third part is you need to feel able to change, at least in part. Now this one can be hugely challenging for many people, particularly if you have struggled with an eating disorder for years and it's become intertwined with your identity and entrenched into the fabric of your being. So it can then feel overwhelming to consider life without the illness. And you might need some real cheerleaders and supporters to push you on and believe in you, although you will be the one doing the work. So, how can you resource yourself better to improve motivation for change, and what would help you feel empowered with this? Okay, the next thing that I think really helps people to change is creating a compelling reason for change, number 2. So if you have a goal that becomes incompatible with living with an eating disorder, this can be truly transformative, as motivation for change is not generally inspired by the next meal or changes in weight or body. Motivation fire instead stems from the life force within. It springs forth from your desire to grow and fulfill your human potential. So it might be a drive for a romantic relationship, a longing for a baby, a wish to develop your skills through meaningful work or study, a desire to travel and experience the world, a movement towards connection and engaging socially with friends, a wish for a strong and healthy body. The list can go on. And the opposite is also true. Sometimes the compelling reason for change is hitting the all-new rock bottom, hitting the depths of despair and loneliness with catastrophic force and realizing that you simply cannot continue living in this way anymore. It is a terribly dark night of the soul, but a place where fresh growth can spring forth. So what is your compelling reason for change? Do you have one? Do you know what you really want in your life? Okay, number 3, time and energy for commitment. In 2025, it has become a normal practice to race through life at 100 plus miles per hour, cramming life and days with activities, work, and numerous commitments. You're spinning on the hamster wheel of life at full speed with no time to reflect or connect inwardly. Now, life is full of endless demands and your to-do list never ends, and you may be disconnected from your body and soul. Now, this speedy and often unconscious life avoidance leaves you discombobulated. You have no clue of your thoughts and feelings. Your mind is a whirl of continuous anxiety. Now, the thought of implementing active change in this somewhat functioning chaos is downright impossible. There is no pause for breath to create the space for change. So if you recognise yourself here, consider how you might begin to slow down even a little. The next one, number 4, a supportive environment. Now, I know myself, when I've taken quantum life leaps or little steps forward, the backdrop of a supportive environment has been fundamental to allow this. Now, this can mean a physical environment of relative calm and safety. It can be a workplace, maybe offering space for sessions, like therapy sessions maybe, or time out for eating, or things that can really facilitate your progress. But most importantly, it is the value of connected relationships. Now, sometimes this has been through therapy or coaching or mentorship, but for me, mainly, the daily consistent support of my dearest friends who accept me wholeheartedly and believe with unwavering encouragement that things are possible for me. And this has allowed me to lean into my own resourcefulness and resilience. And what about implementing the change? Now, maybe you try to do everything on your own or cling to your eating disorder as your closest ally. Now, yes, the eating disorder will be there for you in known and predictable ways, but it is also a destructive force. So if you're feeling alone and isolated, consider how you could expand your trusted connections further. And number 5, taking consistent action. Now, it's easy to talk endlessly about change and to consider the possibilities. And the older traditional therapy models can be guilty of this. You may spend years examining and nasal gazing into your psyche, achieving a profound understanding of your childhood wounds with intense clarity, but never moving beyond the analysis stage. Rather, you're stewing in the juices on repeat, and your past has become your identity. And I recognise my own previous tendency to ruminate and circle around old material without taking different action. Not to devalue this process completely, but there comes a time when you need to experiment with a new way of being and take another road. Now, embracing recovery is a daily practice, not simply the hour when you have therapy or meet with your dietitian. The grueling work is done daily in the trenches, in the cold and lonely moments when no one is watching. Now, change is not glamorous or easy, and someone else's social media feed may project recovery as the land of rainbow and unicorns, and yes, the joy and freedom will be inevitable if you stick with it, but there are also many difficult landscapes to navigate through along the way. So reflect on your own tendencies around talking versus acting, and what baby step forward could you take today? Okay, I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for listening and supporting this podcast. I really appreciate you. If you're not following me already on Instagram, do seek me out, the Eating Disorder Therapist _. And for further support with your relationship with food, do go to the eatingdisordertherapist.co.uk. If you enjoy this podcast, I would be so grateful if you'd follow, rate and review, as it helps it reach so many more listeners. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to sharing another podcast episode with you very soon.